Okay, guys, today we're going to talk about prime and composite numbers. So the two definitions that we're going to need are prime number and composite number. So a prime number is a number that has exactly two factors, and a composite number is a number that has more than two factors. So let's talk a little bit about what that means. So if a prime number has exactly two factors, what that's going to mean is that if we were to make our factor list, for example, for the number 2, right? The factor pairs for 2 are 1 and 2, and that's it. The factor pairs for the number 7 are 1 and 7. So nothing else is going to multiply together to get the number 7, and nothing else is going to multiply together to get the number 2 except for 1 and 2. So every prime number has a factor list that is just 1 and itself. Okay? So even if we get up to a larger number like 37, the only things that multiply together to get 37 are 1 and 37. Okay? So that's what a prime number is. A composite number is one that has more than two factors. So we've talked about a lot of these in the last lesson when we talked about what a factor is. If we have a number like 12, when we do our factor list, we have 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and then 3 and 4. So you can see that 12 has a lot more than just two factors, right? If we have the number, let's see, if we did 18, we'd have 1 and 18, 2 and 9, and 3 and 6. So those are all composite numbers. So whenever you have more than two factors, that number is composite. These are all the prime numbers that are under 100. So you can see on here, the number 2 is the only even number that is prime. And that's because every other even number has the number 2 as a factor. So even the number 4, which doesn't have a lot of factors, has the numbers 1 and 4, right? Every number has a factor of 1 in itself. And then the only other factor here is 2. So even though 4 has 3 factors, it's still going to be composite. So 4 is not a prime number. So every other even number other than 2 is going to be composite for that very reason. So 2 is your only even prime number. So as you look at a number, if it's even, meaning it ends in 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8, that is going to be a composite number unless it is the number 2. Okay. This list of prime numbers under 100, because there you can see that you even get some pretty big numbers up here, like 89 is pretty big. So as the numbers get larger, it gets a little trickier to decide if they're prime numbers, but this list definitely helps. But in these lower numbers, especially when you get to like everything under like 60, we have a pretty good knowledge of our multiplication facts, kind of the 1 through 10 or even 1 through 12 facts. So that can be really helpful in trying to decide if things are prime. But once they get bigger than 60, it gets a little trickier. All right, guys, thanks for listening. Bye. So, questions that I often hear, is 1 a prime number? No, 1 is a unique number because it only has one factor. It has 1 times 1 is the only way you can get 1 through multiplication. So 1 has one factor. And then the other question I usually get is 0 a prime number? No, 0 is not a prime number either because the way that you get 0 is many, many, many numbers. I could do 2 times 0, which would be 0, or I could do, let's say 1,000 times 0, right? That's still going to be 0. So 0 has an infinite number of factors. I could multiply this times 4 billion and I would still get 0, right? So 0 is not a prime number either. Okay, so let's practice. If I get the number 42, is 42 going to be prime or composite? So the first test I always do is it even? Okay, so the first step you're always going to want to look for is if it's even. Oh, ran out of space. If it's even. If it is not even, then you're going to want to keep testing. But this one is even, so it is composite. We can put a C as an abbreviation for composite. Let's do the number 27. Okay, so the number 27, it is not even, so that doesn't help us out. Then you want to kind of go through and test if you can think of any factor pairs that would multiply together to get 27. I know that 9 times 3 equals 27, so that is also going to be composite, okay? Because if we think about our factors for 27, it would be 1 and 27, and then 3 and 9. So those are the 4 factors for 27. How about the number 17? Okay, the number 17, it is not even. So that's leading towards prime right now. And there are no other numbers that multiply together to get 17 except for 1 and 17. So 17 would be prime. Okay. So the very first step that I always look for is that number even? And then after that, I try to think of numbers that can multiply together to get that. Okay. But a good